Hey guys, welcome to Neuro of Jill. I know it's been a hot minute since we had a video, but I'm coming at you today with some great psychology content. Actually, we are going to be doing a little bit of IB Psych. This could also be helpful for AP Psych as well, but I'm in IB Psych, so I figured what better thing to talk about than the class that I'm taking right now. But basically, I had what I think is a good idea to help everyone out with their IB Psych studying, as I'm studying as well, since exams are coming up, and I know that we all just want to ignore the fact that the psychology exam is, got 2-ish months, right? Less, probably. Anyway, it's time to start that cramming, and not really cramming, studying. It's not cramming quite yet. But today we're going to be talking about 2 hormone cases. So with the IB Psych exam, if you're not familiar, you basically should know at least 2 cases for any single kind of thing you can be asked. So if you're getting asked a question about hormones, and this would be in the biological approach, these are 2 cases that I think are some of the best to know because I went through plenty of cases. I actually have a test coming up soon on the biological approach, so I feel like hormones could be on there. So these are the 2 that I'm studying because I feel like they're the 2 that are easiest to remember for myself. So what I'm doing actually is this is in a Google Slides, right? So I am going to be doing a ton of these videos and putting them in slideshows, and then when the slide is all done before the exam, I will hopefully this will happen, try to link this slideshow in a video description for you guys, so you guys can have access to the slideshow and you can have all the review cases as I add some to it. So I know hormones might seem like an odd place to start, but this is what we're doing in my class right now, and this was also helpful to me, for studying, so I feel like it is good. I mean, you have to learn eventually, might as well just do it now, and I feel pretty confident talking about it since I've studied these ones pretty heavily the last few days, so I know that I have plenty of things to say, if that makes sense. And yeah, I put it in this cute little slide template from Slides to Go, so credit to them. But we're just gonna get right into this. There's just 2 slides in here, and they each have the cases super simple. We're going super simple here. We are not overcomplicating things. These are good for ERQs, SAQs, but either way, when you talk about these cases, it's very important to know the facts, to know the aim, to know the independent, dependent variables, but it's also about how you use the cases and how you argue them, because you're not going to get those high marks without using a little bit of critical thinking. So that is why these are pretty much just what you need to, and let's be realistic, we can't memorize every single detail of every single case. So this is just what you should know, and then you should use your knowledge of psychology to really bring it up to that high mark and to apply it further. So let's just get right into it. So, I disappeared, guys. There we are. So I'm gonna move myself. This is a very unconventional way that I'm recording. I know. There we go. Okay, so the first case is DABS, and it's et al, meaning there's other people involved, but it's called DABS. So the aim of this case was to investigate the relationship between testosterone and criminality. So if you're unfamiliar with testosterone, it's basically a main hormone in males, and it has been linked to aggression. That's a lot of studies have proved that. So this study kind of took it in that direction, and testosterone helps males develop. It helps with their hormonal development and their, when their voice drops and other physiological aspects of puberty. So that's just a little bit on that. I'm not going to get too far into that because I feel like a lot of people know what testosterone is, but if you don't, totally okay. And then criminality just means criminal nature. So the sample that they had were 692 male prisoners. Now with this number, are you going to probably be able to remember it off the top of your head when you're cramming all these cases in your head for the real exam? Probably not, but it is important to note that this is a pretty big sample size. I mean, when we look at other psychological studies, sometimes they might have less than 100. So it's just important to note, and that's one of the strengths of this study, is that it has a large sample size. So just knowing that they did have a lot of only male prisoners. And since they were only male prisoners, that is a limitation, that there's only male participants in this. But all of these prisoners, their criminal records were analyzed, and the people who were analyzing it, the researchers, they were looking for if they had violent or non-violent crimes. Because there's a very big difference between something like assault and then something like stealing, I don't know, a mailbox from your neighbor's lawn. I don't know why I thought of mailbox. But anyway, there's very big differences between those, and one is clearly like aggressive and one is just weird and not aggressive. But so they had this sample, and then what they did is took testosterone samples from every single participant, and that was with saliva. So they didn't have to do like any blood drawing or anything like that. It was just, that was with saliva. So they had those samples, and they didn't have to necessarily hurt any participants, which I think is important to know as well, because there's different ways you can get testosterone. I know when you get like labs done, you get your blood drawn, that can happen, but in this case it was just saliva. So what the good thing is with this study is it's pretty simple. They took these samples, they analyzed them. There wasn't a ton of like manipulation of variables or anything like that, because it's not an experiment. It's purely correlational, and all of that is a limitation, as we can see. It is less stuff you have to remember, so it's good and there's bad to that. So with the findings, the prisoners with the highest testosterone levels were more likely to have committed like violent crimes like assault, and the prisoners with the lowest testosterone levels were more likely to have committed the non-violent crimes. So it does really affirm that link, that there is some sort of a link between the testosterone and aggression, at least with males, because this is just a study on males. Although since it is correlational, correlation does not equal causation, so it's not like testosterone causes something. So the results produced by this study kind of show that there's that link between that violent criminal behavior, and it's definitely one you could talk about with a hormone, since testosterone is a hormone. But again, just remember, it can never say like it causes, because this is correlational, so it can't cause. And if you say that, I bet you they are probably going to mark you down for that, because that is a very big distinction that you need to know with any study, not even just this DABS case. But I think this is a pretty simple study to use in a hormone, ERQ, SAQ, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to use it for. Very simple to know. And I'm disappeared again. Okay, here we go. Where should I put myself? Okay, so Newcomer et al. This one is slightly more complicated because there's a little bit more going on, but it's still one of the ones that I think is the best. So the aim of this study was to investigate whether high levels of cortisol interfere with verbal declarative memory. Now, cortisol is basically your stress hormone. So if you have high levels of cortisol, you're going to be a lot more stressed. Simplest way to put it. So for this study, they had a double-blind experiment in a lab. So double-blind means that the researcher and the participant don't know, like no one knows what group they're in or what condition in this case. And there were 3 conditions. So the first condition was a high level of cortisol. So these people were giving tablets with either a high, a low level cortisol, or a placebo. So it's probably like a sugar tablet, or just like think of like a Tic Tac, like that type of thing. So they were given this amount of cortisol, and it was dependent on their group. And the participants were matched for age and gender to the conditions, and they were asked to listen and recall 2 parts of a prose paragraph. So basically, they were read something, and they had to listen to and recall different parts of it. So what they did is they found that the high cortisol levels impaired the I don't know why I have a typo there. The performance in the memory task, and the participants with the highest level of the cortisol given to them showed the worst performance in verbal declarative memory, so being able to declare like facts from the paragraph. And this kind of concluded that high levels of cortisol can interfere with the real meaning of of the pro passage. And there was definitely a difference between the condition 1 and the condition 2, because the condition 1 just couldn't remember as much, and the condition 3 didn't necessarily show that significant of a difference in their remembering from the first to the second time. And I apologize about all these spelling mistakes that I'm just now finding. And the implications are that high levels of stress, which are caused by cortisol, can affect memory. And some of the weaknesses are that there was some deception used, because they didn't quite tell them what they were, looking for in this experiment. And, the lab environment itself can be stressful on some participants. And another thing is you're giving people cortisol and you're causing them to be stressed. So that's definitely a limitation, because kind of comes into an ethical question, like we're subjecting these people to high levels of something we know is probably going to stress them out. So that is definitely something to consider there. But again, you can still use a study. You just got to address that these things are there. And, no psychological study really is without some sort of limitation, some sort of strength. So, henceforth, why we talk about them. And another strength, though, of this study is the fact that it is a double blind. So it does eliminate a good amount of researcher and participant bias. And since there's a placebo, and it is an experiment too, so it's definitely a lot stronger than something like DABS that has correlational results. But as you can see with both of these studies, they're both talking about hormones and their effect on different aspects of human nature. With this one, it's memory, and with the DABS, it's about criminality and aggression. So if you were to get a prompt that asked you to like link two studies to the effect of hormones on human behavior, these cases are literally perfect. These are literally perfect. And these ones I feel like are not super hard to remember. I think the hardest part is just remembering the names, honestly. But some of the other names of the other cases are very confusing. So newcomer and DABS, not that bad. Again, I apologize for my spelling errors on this slide. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, so these were just two cases that you guys can use if you have any ERQs, any SAQs on hormones. And when this slide is all finished and I continue to make these videos, I will be able to share these slides with you, hopefully. And then everyone can have a nice little reference thing to study off of. I also sometimes make Quizlets. So if you like to make Quizlets, this stuff is pretty much, you could copy and paste it into Quizlet if you wanted to make it a flashcard, because all this stuff, like the formatting, is from my own Quizlets that I've made. So yeah, just as always, remember to study the study, but also know how to apply it, because that is so important, and that is how you get those top marks. We do not strive for the bare minimum. We want to try to do the best that we can and show what we know about psychology. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if there's any specific psychology topic you want me to do next. Yeah, bye.